What if I told you there isn't one budget that fits everybody? Two people can earn the same amount of money and still need completely different budgeting tools. Why? Because they may be in completely different seasons. So the question today is not simply, what is the best budget? The better question is, which budget fits what I'm trying to accomplish right now? Hello, stewards, and welcome back to yet another episode of Bolts and Nuts of Financial Wellness. I am Ruth Kirago, and as always, thank you for joining me on this journey. This is where we learn together, we build together, and we become better stewards of what has been entrusted unto us. Before we begin today's conversation, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let's get into today's conversation. So in episode 6, we looked at the money blueprint. You all remember that? The vision, priorities, plan, and execution. Then last week in episode 7, we learned to give every dollar an assignment. Today we are choosing the tool we will use to make those assignments. A budget is a tool, and a wise builder chooses the tool according to the job. And today's Bible passage, we are going to look at Proverbs 24, verse 3 to 4, and this is what it says. Through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So this is not a verse about budgeting methods. However, building well requires wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And in the same way, after establishing our financial vision, we need wisdom and understanding. Understanding the season we are in, we choose the tool that helps us build in our present season. So today I will share the tools, the budget frameworks, and this is the knowledge that you will use to execute having wisdom and understanding. So age alone does not determine the right budget. Two 25-year-olds may have completely different realities. One may be debt-free and living at home, while another may have children, housing costs, and debt. Therefore, fit comes from 3 things. And fit here is when you're choosing your budget frameworks or your budget tool. What fits me? So it comes from 3 things: your priority, the amount of structure you need, and the problem you're trying to solve. Let's start with the first one, priority. Priority is what matters most right now. We established this in episode 7. After having our vision, the vision tells you where you're going. It is the biggest destination. And we then said priority comes before assignment. So before giving every dollar an assignment, I first establish what season I am in. And in that season, what is my priority? The second one is structure. How closely do I need to manage my money? How much detail do I need in order to manage my money successfully? Some people only need broad boundaries, and that's less structure. Another person will say, I need to know exactly how much I'm assigning to groceries, electricity, eating out, transportation, giving, debt, savings, everything. And that is more structure. And the third one is problem or goal. What financial issue am I trying to fix or accomplish? Is it paying off my debt? Is it building an emergency fund? Is it funding my retirement? Or do I just need visibility and control? Once you know these 3, priority, structure, and problem, then you will choose which budgeting tools fits your own story or life. A budget is a tool. A budget is a tool. And we choose tools according to the job we need to do. I will share 3 frameworks in this episode, and there are many frameworks out there. But when you're searching among the many, it will be easy for you if you already know what your priority is, your structure, and your problem. That will help you identify then which is that budgeting tool that will fit your life. So allow me to share my PowerPoint here so that we can go step by step. So which budget fits your season? Which budget fits your season? So different seasons need different tools. The question is not only what is the best budget, it is which budget helps me accomplish my priority this season. And framework number 1 is 50, 30, 20. So your 50% after tax income or your take home, what you're taking home, you take 50% and you allocate it towards your needs. And in this case, the needs are housing, the basic food, utilities, transportation, insurance, minimum requirement payments. And then 30% you allocate it towards your wants. And the wants is eating out, entertainment, travel, hobbies, and other discretionary spending. Then your 20%, you allocate it towards the goals like savings, investing, additional debt repayment, or other financial goals. This framework gives your money broad boundaries. And the benefit here is simplicity, because your take home, you just take the amount that you're taking home and you separate it in 3 buckets or 3 categories. And you say 50% will be for my needs, 30% will be for my wants, and then 20% will be for my goals. So that is simplicity. And it can be attractive for someone beginning to budget or someone who does not want detailed categories. And the possible fit for this framework is one who has a predictable income or expenses, one who wants guardrails, or one who wants a simple starting point. The limitation of this framework is that the broad boundaries do not tell every individual the dollar exactly where to go. And this method does not give every dollar an assignment. And if someone's essential needs are 60% or 65%, that does not mean they have failed, but this shows or reveals their current reality. So you can say, since you're allocating 50% to your needs, when you're adjusting or when you're reviewing after the month, you may actually identify and see that actually my needs are 60%. And at that point, it will require you to adjust. And adjusting will mean you give them the 60% to your needs, and then maybe you put 20% to your wants, and then the other 20% to your goals. And you're doing this so that your 100% of your take home has been allocated. In these 3 buckets, one can actually go further and say, I'm going to look at those 50% that are going to my needs. Am I actually using my money well? Am I stewarding my money well or correctly? The basic foods, am I actually spending so much? The utilities, the transportation, the insurance. Do I need to call my insurance agency to shop around for another insurance? And I'll give you a win for me this week. I contacted my insurance agent for my car insurance, and I called and I said, I think I'm ready to shop for this year before we renew. Let's shop and see whether there's something cheaper out there. My car insurance, I pay $138. And she was able to shop around, and it actually came down to $88. So in other words, I'm going to be saving going forward. From next month, I'll be saving $50. But this was only applicable, or this became a benefit on my end, because I went through all my transactions wanting to see, is there a place that I'm actually overspending? Is there a place that I can actually reduce? So the person who uses this framework will have these boundaries and says 50% is for the needs, 30 is for the wants, and 20 is for the goals. But you can individually go into these categories or these buckets and see where you are overspending in order to see that you're living within your means, or you are trying to see how you can actually push more money towards the 20% goal bucket. The next framework is pay yourself first. With this framework, you start with the income, the take home. And then it tells you, before you allocate that money to your spending or to your bills, you save first. And what are you saving? Either it is, so you allocate one to your saving, you allocate to an investment, you allocate to funding your goal. In this case, for example, for me, it's paying off the debt. So this framework tells me that as soon as my income comes into my account, I need to put some for saving, to put some for investing and funding the goal. Or I'm just putting an amount where it goes to investment. Or in this season, it's about saving, I'll put into the saving. Or in this season, is actually funding the goal. And in this case, it is the goal of debt, paying off my debt. And then after you have allocated, remember in an episode previously that we did and we said reclaim your 20%. So in this case, a person using this framework can say, after my income has come in, the 20% that I'm planning to reclaim, I automatically take the 20% and I put it towards whatever it is I have assigned it for. And then after that, whatever remains is what now I allocate it to the bills or to my spending. This framework finds the priority before lifestyle gets the fast access to the money. And the benefit of this framework is that the method protects the goal and works well with automation. For example, retirement contribution, emergency savings, or a house fund that can move automatically to a savings account when income arrives. And the possible fit, this is for someone who already has a reasonable spending control, but repeatedly says, I will save whatever is left. But they find themselves at the end of the month, they have nothing left. The limitation for this framework is someone can automatically save 20% and still have no visibility into the leakage that remain within the 80% in the bills and spending. The third framework is the zero-based budgeting. It starts with the income. The income is, in this case, your take-home, what comes into your bank account. And then you assign every dollar according to the priorities until there is $0 unassigned. So in this case, your take home, you assign some amount to giving, you assign some amount to housing, food, transportation, utilities, savings, investing, debt, lifestyle, and then at the end of the day or at the bottom of your budget, you have $0 remaining. And in episode 7, I said $0 does not mean I spent everything. $0 means I assigned everything. The benefit of this framework is that it gives visibility and control. It helps answer where my money is going, whether spending matches priorities, and where planned versus actual differs. The possible fit for this framework is for detailed control or finding leakages, aggressive debt paying off, or competing priorities or monthly reconciliation. And this is the framework that I've chosen in the season that I'm in. And it currently fits my season because I want to see the visibility. I am working towards a specific goal, and this is paying off the debt. And I want to reconcile my plans versus the actual every month. And so this becomes the best fit for me. So this is a budgeting tool that is best fit for me because I want to assign every single dollar towards what I'm using it for. And this means that every available dollar has a purpose, including savings and investing. So far we've discussed the three tools, the three different tools that there are three that do three different jobs. There is a 50, 30, 20%. And this will ask, am I staying within the broad boundaries? And the strength on this framework, it is simplicity. It is very simple. You get 5,000 as your take home. You can easily divide it into 50, 30, and 20. Where you say 50 is for my needs, anything that I need that I cannot live without. And then 30% is for my wants. If my wants, for example, the person who uses this framework, if their wants is traveling, then they use this 30% for traveling. If it is eating out, if it is, wants of buying clothes or furnishing the house, then it fits the 30%. Then the 20% is what you put aside for that certain goal. It could be investing, it could be saving, it could be paying off a debt. So you assign it to a goal. And then the second framework that we talked about is pay yourself first. And this framework asks, did I find my priority first? And the strength here is automation and goal protection. Because you're saying my goal, as I had mentioned in previous episode, reclaiming your 20%, my goal is to be putting 20% without fail towards an investment or towards an emergency funding. So what you do is you take your income and you automate that 20%. As soon as the income hits your account, 20% is moved from your account automatically and put in the vehicle that is actually helping you fund the goal that you have. So it could be a money market, or it could be a Roth IRA, it could be whatever vehicle that you have chosen. And then you say, I have 80% left in the account. Now let me plan for the 80% towards my needs, towards my wants, and then I see what else that needs to be assigned. And then we came to the zero-based, which is my favorite or fits my season right now. This one, it's ask, does every dollar have an assignment? And the strength is that it has the detail and control. So it gives us the detail and the control. Notice these three tools are not solving exactly the same problem. And so a budget is not a one fits all. A budget is actually, you have to come up with your priority, your structure, and then the problem you're planning to solve. Then you can choose the budget. But a budget is not where I say that, hey, everybody needs to use framework 50, 30, 20, or everybody needs to use pay yourself first, or everybody needs to use zero-based. A budget fits depending on your season and priority. My season and your season will be different. And maybe my partner's season may be different. But this means everybody has a tool out there, depending on their priority, their structure, and their problem that they are planning to solve. Then they can choose the framework or the tool that is working for them. How do I know what fits? In order to choose the tool that fits, you have to answer. 1, what is my biggest financial priority right now? The second question that you answer, how much structure do I need? And the third question that you answer is, what problem am I trying to solve? Then you choose the tool that helps you solve that problem in that season. So the same age can still mean a completely different person. At 25-year-old, same age, one may be just be staying at home, going to school and staying at home. Another one may have children. And so they have housing costs, they have childcare. So they may be in different seasons. And that's why what fits you, you have to first answer the question of the three questions. What is your priority? What is that structure? How much detail and control do you need? And then what is that problem that you need to the budget to solve for you? So the steward reflection for this week is, what season am I in? So I want you to write answers. Before you choose any budgeting method or tool, I want you to ask yourself, what season am I in? What is my biggest financial priority? What do I need my budget to help me accomplish? Which tool fits me right now? A wise steward knows when the tool needs to change. A wise steward knows when the tool needs to change. We started with a blueprint, the vision, priorities, plan, and execution. Then we learned to give every dollar an assignment. And today we just looked at 3 tools that can help us turn those priorities into a working plan. The best budget is not necessarily the most popular budget. It is the budget you can consistently use to accomplish the priorities of your season. So don't choose a method simply because I use it. Look at your season, look at your priorities, look at the problem you're trying to solve, then ask, which tool fits me? And the stewardship principle is different season may require different tools. A wise steward knows when the tool needs to change. Thank you so much once again for spending time with me today. Until the next time, let's learn together, let's build together, and let's become better stewards of what has been entrusted to us. I am Ruth Kirago, and I will see you in the next episode.